I found a secret note from my boyfriend's ex that revealed some unsettling truths. I originally posted about this on another site, but wanted to get more feedback here. For context, I'm a 28-year-old woman, and my boyfriend Steve, who is 30, and I have been together for 2 years and living together for 8 months. While cleaning our apartment, I discovered a note tucked away at the back of a cabinet. Here's what it said. Dear Steve's future girlfriend, I know it's you reading this because he'd never clean back here. I'm leaving him soon and want to warn you, he will not clean, he will not listen, and he will make everything feel like it's your fault. It's not your fault, he's just an incompetent man. I'm leaving him, and I suggest you do the same. Best wishes, Natalia. Name changed. I showed the note to Steve, and he immediately tore it up, claiming that Natalia was crazy and untrustworthy. He insisted that the note was just an attempt by his ex to manipulate him and me, and that he hadn't found it in the 5 years since they broke up, because he never cleaned back there. Steve argued that the cleaning issue wasn't a problem before the note came to light. I pointed out that the note made me realize he has been cleaning less and less since we moved in together. We had a heated argument, and I ended up spending the night at a friend's place. Steve has generally been a great boyfriend. He gets along with my family, gives me gifts and flowers, and frequently tells me how much he loves me. Despite this, the note made me recognize that the cleaning issue was getting worse, and we clearly need to address it. After our conversation, he texted me apologizing for making me feel like I had to leave. He mentioned that it's important for me to reflect on our 2-year relationship and suggested that I leave him and our pets alone. I'm unsure about what to do or who to trust right now. I'm considering trying to reach out to Natalia, whose real name is quite unique, so I might be able to find her. Steve thinks I should return home and move on, believing that his past shouldn't affect our future. However, I'm conflicted because Steve's description of Natalia makes her seem manipulative and petty. So I'm uncertain about what to believe. To clarify some points, especially about cleaning. When we moved in together 8 months ago, we shared cleaning responsibilities equally. Over time, though, his contribution has decreased, and it's now around 70-30 or 60-40, depending on the week. I have to remind him to do tasks like bringing plates to the sink or taking out the trash, which I didn't have to do before. Dishes sometimes pile up, and he's even let leftover food mold on the plates. I'm not confrontational, so I usually address these issues as they come up. The note made me reflect on this more deeply and try to discuss it openly. However, I felt like he didn't listen to my concerns and became fixated on the idea that I was siding with his ex rather than addressing the cleaning issues. He believes I'm using the note to validate my own biases, making him think that no matter what he says, I'll see him as wrong. I didn't leave him permanently. This all happened yesterday. I spent one night at a friend's because our conversation wasn't going anywhere, and he wouldn't let me sleep until I let it go. I'm heading back today and wanted to get advice and feedback first. Thank you for all your comments and advice. My plan is to start by apologizing for bringing him the note without considering his feelings and acknowledging that finding an ex's message is difficult. I realize now that I've been letting the cleaning issues slide. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to constantly remind him to clean. It was pointed out that he should have cleaned the shelves during his move from his ex's place, and the fact that it hasn't been done in 5 years makes it clear that I need to address this seriously. I don't want to throw away 2 years, so I plan to ask him to agree on clear cleaning expectations and designated chores. I'll make it clear that cleaning is a deal-breaker for me, and it will be up to him how he wants to respond. I'll update you all again. Thanks for the advice. Update: I took your advice and tried to have a calm discussion with Steve. When I apologized for confronting him with the note, he interpreted that as an admission of guilt and refused to listen to anything else. I had a list of specific instances where cleaning was an issue, as suggested, but he accused me of using the list like his manipulative ex did. The red flag you all mentioned about the crazy ex was definitely true. When I saw that the conversation wasn't going anywhere and he tried to block me from leaving, I knew it was over and decided to leave. 2 years down the drain, but I'm relieved I had the wake-up call before it was too late. I'll let him cool off, and then I'll ask my brother to help me retrieve my belongings while he's not around. He has a strict work schedule, so it should work out. I plan to leave a note, but I'll likely wait a bit longer before doing so, advising him not to show it to him. I'll place it in the same spot, hoping that if he doesn't learn about cleaning, it will come back to haunt him. The biggest surprise was that Natalia reached out to me. Apparently, he borrowed his friend's phone to call her, screaming that she was ruining his life. The fact that he had her number memorized, even after being blocked, just shows he was the unstable one, not her. Natalia found me on social media to check if I was okay and expressed concern that he might try to gaslight me, as he did with her. I thanked her for the note and saving me time. We've scheduled coffee for Thursday afternoon. I also want to thank everyone for their advice, especially the person who shared the Love is Respect website. After taking the healthy relationship quiz, it was clear how he was slowly leading me into an unhealthy relationship. My friend has offered me a place to stay until I find a new one, and with my emergency savings and a decent job, I'm in a relatively good position despite this messy breakup. I'm trying to stay grateful for that. I posted my final update separately. Thank you all for your support. I'd like to know if you found any truth in Natalia's notes based on your own experiences with Steve O. He does listen to me, like when he gets me flowers and knows my favorites. We share hobbies and enjoy discussing them. However, I feel he's not fully listening to me in this situation because he's fixated on the fact that I'm listening to his ex rather than him. Since we moved in together, I've noticed he's been putting in less effort to start conversations or initiate quality time. As for my role in conflicts, I tend to be a people pleaser and often think issues are my fault. Although he hasn't directly blamed me, I still feel unsure. Regarding the cleaning issue, I've mentioned it several times, but there hasn't been much improvement. I regret not having a proper discussion about it earlier and instead using a note to address it. I'm questioning our relationship based on his reaction to the note, as he raised his voice, and I'm now realizing that his reaction to me going to sleep without resolving the issue was also problematic. I'm trying to come up with ideas for how to approach the conversation when I get back to our place in an hour. I agree that I should apologize for immediately bringing up the note about cleaning instead of addressing his past issues. I realize now that addressing the issue with the note right away was a mistake. I should have waited and handled it more thoughtfully. Here's a revised version of the text. I want to address some comments about my breakup. It wasn't over a note about chores. The relationship ended because when I tried to address an unequal situation, he responded by yelling and trying to convince me that the problem was solely me. The breaking point was when he physically blocked me from leaving the house while screaming at me. This kind of behavior is unacceptable, and no one should stay with someone who handles conflict in such a manner. For context, I reached out to Natalia about the situation, and she was supportive. She, along with some of you, asked about my pets. My ex and I bonded over our love for animals, which is why I initially thought he was a good person. I believed that if he took great care of his lizard, he would do the same for me. I was mistaken. He had a lizard before we met, and we bought 2 frogs together. I also brought a snake with me when I moved in. I intended to wait until he calmed down to collect my belongings and pets, thinking he wouldn't harm them. However, Natalia warned me that he could become destructive when angry and advised me to prioritize my pet's safety. After our conversation, I decided to contact the landlord this morning to discuss an early termination of my lease. Natalia, who is a lawyer, informed me that in our state, landlords are required to allow lease terminations in cases of domestic violence. She also explained that his behavior, yelling, gaslighting, and preventing me from leaving, constitutes abuse. It's been difficult for me to process all of this. With the help of the Love is Respect relationship quiz, I realized last night that his constant messaging and control over what I wore and when were signs of abuse. This morning, Natalia volunteered to come with me to speak to the landlord, alongside my brother. As soon as my brother mentioned a lawyer, the landlord said I could break the lease but would still have to pay for all of August, even though I was leaving 3 days early. I felt that was fair. The landlord also contacted Steve, informing him that the apartment needed to be vacant for emergency maintenance all day today, so I could pack my things. Steve replied that he would be at work until 6 p.m. When I arrived at the apartment, it was a disaster. Steve had broken the dishes I brought and left the shards scattered on the floor. My clothes were ripped and strewn around the room, and it was both disgusting and heartbreaking. Although he left his lizard alone, he had opened the tank doors for our frogs and my snake. Fortunately, the frogs were still in their enclosure, but my snake had gotten loose. I was furious as she could have been harmed by the broken glass. Thankfully, she was just hiding in a corner of the closet, and I was able to safely pack her back into her enclosure. Now all my things are packed, and I'm writing this as my brother drives me back to my friend's house. Natalia had actually left 3 notes, one in the cabinet, one on the underside of the vacuum, and one in the crumb catcher of the toaster. While we were there, we checked for the notes. The one on the vacuum was still there, but it looks like Steve had cleaned out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. As it was missing, I was caught off guard when I found a note from our previous conversations. Natalia and I decided to leave the vacuum note as is, but replace the cabinet note. I wasn't comfortable adding my name to a new note, so instead I included a handout on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and a QR code linking to a quiz that really opened my eyes. I'll add the link in the comments, though I'm unsure if external links are allowed. Natalia mentioned that if he hadn't found the notes in the past 5 years, especially after moving, he probably won't find them now. I agree, particularly since he found one note but didn't bother cleaning the rest of the house to look for more. The state of the apartment made me realize I don't really know who he is. The Steve I knew would never endanger animals, but it seems I never truly understood him. To those who think it's pathetic that I ended my relationship over chores and Reddit, I urge you to consider how subtle abuse can be. This Reddit thread helped me recognize the signs and provided resources to escape before things escalated. I've also scheduled an appointment with a therapist, and I'm fortunate that my job offers good insurance. I plan to work on setting boundaries and addressing my people-pleasing tendencies to avoid similar situations in the future. As for those hoping Natalia and I would end up together, we had a good laugh about it. Natalia is happily engaged to a wonderful man who listens, reflects, and cleans. She mentioned that after leaving a bad relationship, your soulmate might come along quickly, and I hope that's true. Regardless, I've gained a good friend in Natalia, especially since she's also a snake mom. In my final update, I hope my experience teaches you that abuse doesn't start abruptly. It often begins with love bombing, gifts and flattering words, and gradually escalates as they test your boundaries. You should never tolerate mistreatment, especially something as gross as moldy plates. To summarize, after ending things due to his behavior, Steve vandalized our apartment and let my snake loose. Fortunately, with Natalia's help, I managed to get off the lease and retrieve my belongings. I'm now safe and searching for a new place to live. Commenter: Natalia showed true sisterhood and handled the situation well. I'm sorry Steve proved us all, including Natalia, right about how awful he is. Can you pursue legal action for the property damage? Op: Honestly, I just want to move on. Most of the clothes he bought me were gifts I once appreciated, but I've realized he was pushing his own style onto me. I'm okay leaving those clothes behind. I can buy new ones that fit my style. My pets are safe, and that's what matters most. The Steve I knew would never endanger animals. It's unsettling to think you can build a life with someone and not truly know them. It makes me wonder if abusers are intentionally deceitful to trap others, or if their worst behaviors only emerge later. It's hard to believe that most stealth abusers are strategic masterminds. At least Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years, probably because the paper and crumbs mix would have become problematic. At some point, while smoking, she came across her western hognose snake, who is absolutely adorable. Her name is Raspberry because of her pinkish color. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more surprising real-life stories happening around you.